Okay, well, I think we're going to do a little bit of a pre-show here while people are getting in. We've got about 10 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes, and we will take a look. So I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington. Let's take a look at how this is working. Hi, everybody. Michael Steves here. We've got about 8-9 minutes now before we officially kick off the live design. Today we're going to do this growth chart. You're going to be able to make your own. I'm going to show you how to do it using SOLIDWORKS, some paper, a home printer if you have one. But before we do that, I thought I'd warm everyone up a little bit with some apps for kids. So I've actually been teaching SOLIDWORKS apps for kids at my daughter's elementary school. We live in Seattle, Washington. Oh, hello. Good. Oh, all of you guys are waiting. Awesome. Nuno, Hassan, welcome. And this Steven, awesome. Thank you guys. Hopefully I sound okay. So like I said, I live in Seattle. We take a look here. And one other thing that's keeping me at home is they closed the West Seattle Bridge. So I live over here in West Seattle. Here's downtown Seattle. If you're familiar with Seattle, you know there's a beautiful beach right here, Alki Beach. But this bridge has been closed down. So, and it's going to be closed for, I think, a while. We'll see. So what we've had to do is kind of drive around. And this is actually an interesting concept I've done with third, fourth, and fifth graders at my daughter's elementary school, teaching apps for kids. And I created a little project because West Seattle we're known for this West Seattle Bridge. I mean, also, if you know Seattle, we're also known for the Space Needle, one of the popular landmarks. So let's take a look, and I want to show you one of the lessons that I give to those kids, the third, fourth, and fifth graders learning CAD in the cloud for the first time using SOLIDWORKS apps for kids. So one thing I do is I give them this template, and before we actually open and kind of make changes to this template, we talk a little bit about why bridges are important. So let me just show you a couple things that I do. The apps for kids here. Eric, welcome. I see you. Virtual stage. Love it. All right, so there's that bridge again, West Seattle Bridge. So we talk about the importance of bridges, right? If we didn't have that bridge, we'd have to drive all the way around, and it adds 10, 15 minutes to your commute. And sure enough, everyone's having to do that right now with the bridge being closed. So, we talk about directions, we talk about lanes. You can see all the area underneath there. There's actually a waterway where freight comes through. There's a nice little shot of the upper bridge and lower bridge. So there is a lower bridge that a lot of the emergency response critical services are able to use, but everyone else has to go around. And of course, you can see a waterway, a little drawbridge for a train track, which is pretty cool. So again, why do we have bridges? What if we didn't have bridges? We would have to drive around to get to where we want to go. So do you think you can design a bridge? So we can use apps for kids. So this is where I provide them a template. You can kind of go through, click on faces, and there is a specific feature called bridge. You can go in, click on a edge there, add a loop, click on faces, add material, and of course you can do this bridge over and over again. And you can make it your own. So this is a really fun exercise that I like to give them, because the other thing it talks about is design constraints. So we talk about how you can change everything in white but nothing in red. Well, why not? Well, we do something with the bridges. So if we take a look at this one here, you can see some of the other bridges that were created. This was last fall, 2018, by some of the students. Going in, getting creative, trying different things out. Yeah, I see some questions as you guys are joining. Why are we seeing bridges? This doesn't look like SOLIDWORKS. This is the pre-show, so if you take a look down the bottom, we got a little timer there. We've got about 4 minutes left before we kick this off and talk about making this growth chart. Because I'm going to come back to apps for kids a little bit later on to see how we can incorporate this into the design of our bridge. So why do we talk? Why do we have those design constraints? Well, so things can fit together. Because if you notice, they look a little bit like puzzle pieces. So that's where after the students modeled them up, made their own bridges, they were able to connect them to each other and do so, because if you made a change to those red areas, would the puzzle pieces fit? Interesting. Probably not. All right, so there's that bridge template, and this is actually something you can get from the classroom edition of SOLIDWORKS Apps for Kids. So if you go to swappsforkids.com, and this is where you can try it now. You can sign up if you haven't tried this out already. If you're an educator, especially for doing remote education like many are today, you can set up a digital classroom, educators. But regardless, if you're an educator or not, if you go to this page, scroll down to the bottom, there's about 5 projects here that you can download without signing up for Apps for Kids that you can use to instruct, help teach your kids apps for kids and design about living in space, jewelry design, mechanical models, new foods, animals and habitats. It's pretty fun. Let's see who's going on in the chat here. Mark Schneider, thanks for jumping on. Yeah, we've got a lot of episodes coming. We're going to kick this off in about 2 minutes and talk about a growth chart. Oh, you like the t-shirt. Hey, thank you. Yeah. Gurpreet, welcome. Yeah, jump in the chat. Looks like a lot of you guys are jumping in already. Let us know. Let me know where you're coming from. Jan, good to see you. Yeah, so in the last couple of minutes here, I went through those clicks. So if you do try this out, right, I can turn on add material, add a couple things. If you like apps for kids, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I think some of you are already jumping in there already. Let me know that, yeah, it's a great, I mean, it is. It's really nice, easy to use. Click on faces. I hold control to grab those disconnected faces, and there's the bridge feature right there. So this is where we can say, oh yeah, actually to make a bridge, we use the bridge feature. So drag and drop makes it really easy to grab those other items of interest to make this bridge your own. And to connect those, I can duplicate a body, clone it, and let's eyeball it here. But if we go to the top view now, yeah, fits nice together like a puzzle piece. So that's just a little simple exercise of using bridges, talking about design constraints, things that you can change, things that you don't want to change to build something that connect with something that other people have designed. All right, we're down on the final couple clicks here. So let's kill that timer. We don't need it. We're ready to go live. Awesome. Welcome everybody to SOLIDWORKS Live Design. My name is Michael Steves. I'll be taking you through making your own growth chart, designing and making your own growth chart. So this is going to be, well, first off, what is a growth chart? Mark Peterson, thanks for hitting that like button. Hang on, let me grab this. So this was pretty fun. I have 3 kids. The oldest one is 7, turning 7, almost there. And I was looking at this. So this is a growth chart. Right now, how tall am I? I'm taller than the Space Needle. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington. The Space Needle landmark in Seattle, Washington. So how tall am I? Well, I don't know. If I was this tall, I can mark my height right here as I get taller through the years. Unfortunately for me, I'm not getting much taller these days, but it's great for my kids. So this is where, here you can see some of the markings that we've done over the years as 2 of my kids are able to stand on their own, and we can record their height. So I have this hanging up on the wall upstairs. We're in my basement, by the way, so welcome to my home. I got to look out for Legos on the floor, Lego bricks on the floor. Make sure I don't hit it. But this was really interesting. As I was running through this yesterday, I got to show you this. Being careful of not to hit this. But I dated it when I made it. Yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of me making this thing. So that's pretty fun. I think this is going to last a long time. I got a nice piece of pine board. I got it from my local hardware store. It ran me probably about like $20. But it's a nice piece of pine. Worked great because what I did is I made a stencil and taped it on here and was able to spray paint the shape of that Space Needle. So that's what we're going to get into here is how did I create that stencil and how did I print it to a 1-to-1 scale. And especially at home, I don't have a large format printer. I have a home printer, but nothing large scale. So how did I make that 1-to-1 print to create that stencil or that screen to give me all these shapes so I can get a nice clean spray paint job on there. Has anyone else if you made a growth chart, put it in the comments, let me know. I'm curious what designs you put on there. Because that's what you're going to be able to do. After taking a look at what I'm going to take you through today, you don't have to make a Space Needle. You can make anything you really want. But you can go through, get some tips and tricks on, we're going to learn about some sketching. We're not doing much 3D stuff today. I'm going to make the board. It's going to be in 3D, of course. We're going to do a little bit of rendering so we can get that sign off. Because, I mean, I've got to make some decisions with my wife. I let her know, it's like, hey, this is the proposed design. What do you think? Do you like it? All right, now I'll print it and we'll get to the manufacturing, to the making side of it. We're going to do a little bit of drawings, and we're going to do a little bit of kind of what we can do when we output that drawing. How do we actually get it to the printer to give us kind of multiple sheets here to create a stencil, a large stencil. New forms design, yeah, sheet metal design, yeah, I won't be doing sheet metal today, but you can take a look at some of the other streams that we have coming up. So this is actually episode 7. Last Friday, my teammate Mark Schneider did an awesome presentation on Model Mania tips and tricks. Great stuff. I can't get enough of Model Mania. Make sure you watch that. Before that, we saw some design with weldments. We saw a steering pinion shaft support design with Mike Sabocek. Mike Sandy did the desk design. We had Andy Barnes, Brian Zeiss, Toby Schnars do some excellent work. The other one to check out maybe on some of those other questions is that monitor arm wall mount, especially on some of these, how you design some of these components and different types of components if they are kind of if they're machined parts or sheet metal. Coming up this coming Friday, April 24th, is Garage Time with JT. So that's Jordan Todich. My friend Jordan will be doing an excellent presentation, I'm sure. So be sure to tune in for that. All right, so let's get into some of this. And I know all my fellow presenters. I mean, we always ask, "How's it going, Brian?" We always ask, "Okay, when we create a new part, what do you want it to be? Do we want it in inches or millimeters, English or metric?" And today, because I'm buying my lumber from my local hardware store, I am. And here's the. Let's see. Yeah, I'm buying it from my local hardware store. So this is the piece that I bought. It's lasted really well. So we can kind of have an idea, right? What I'm actually going to create. Now, if you know your lumber, help me out in the comments here. This is the nominal size, right? 1 inch by 8 inch by 6 feet. What's the actual size? Well, I've got a tape measure and we can measure this thing, but put it in the comments if you know. So this is the nominal size. What is the actual size? Hmm. All right, well let me start creating the sketch and hopefully some of you guys in the comments can tell me. We're gonna just start this off on the front plane. New part created. Oh, I forgot to change my units. Quick access, bottom right corner. We can switch that over to IPS, and we can get going here. So on the front plane, I'll use mouse gestures. Mark Schneider did an excellent job talking about mouse gestures and the shortcut key bar, the S key. So yeah, we can use some of these quick access tools. We don't really need that command manager at the top. I don't know, it's old habit for me. Sometimes I always go up and get there. Hey, there we go, Chuck. Thank you. Blazer, yes. Awesome work. Thank you guys. All right, so let's put some of these dimensions in, shall we? So we got 0.75. So it was interesting here, right? As many of you put in. Oh, 0.75 feet. Is that what you put in? So that's interesting. Yeah, what am I seeing here? 0.75 inches, 3/4 of an inch by 7.5. I think you guys are, yeah, 3/4. That's our thickness. Yeah, what's our width? Yep, 7. Let's see, 7.5. That actually came out to 7.25. There we go. Jordan, garage time with JT. I knew you would get it, buddy. Go back to your garage. You know what you're doing. 7.25. And a height of 6 feet. Did you ever think drawing a rectangle would be so complicated? It's not. But there's a couple things here I want to pay attention to, because if you're doing lumber, if you're doing a lot of this construction things, units can be important, obviously important. So I want to take a look at a couple things here. Let's explore the document units, and this is always the thing that comes up when if you're always creating a new part and jumping in and changing the units, changing some of these document properties, you need to update your template. I'm not going to get into creating and updating templates in this video, but go through that because you're going to save yourself a lot of clicks creating custom templates for you, so you don't have to go back in and redefine these settings every time. Okay, so what I want to do here is actually change this, just like the dimensions that we had on the lumber, is we had a mix of inches and feet. So to do this, I've got to go to a custom setup, and we'll change this from inches to feet and inches. So let's just make that change real quick and jump back into our sketch, take a look at what we have here. So we do have our 6 feet, that's cool, so it's actually reading us out in feet now. But we have 7.25. Now, depending on who's operating this or reading this, I'd really like to see some fractions there. So let's take another look at the document properties here. Units. For fractions, we can jump in here and let's hit 4. So we want to look at everything that's a 1/4 of an inch. So that's pretty nice. So we have a nice display there of 7 1/4. Lessons learned right here. So if I'm making a change here to the 7 1/4, and I'm actually maybe where we started out at 6, but I want to make a change. I want this to be 7 1/4. One way of writing this out, like you see in the vertical dimension, the feet inches, is maybe if I did a 7 dash quarter, so 1/4, what is it going to give me? Mike Sandy, you're right, my friend. Oh, it subtracted it. Well, of course, powerful tool, this modify. We don't have to pull out our separate calculator. It has a calculator built right in. But, so I did a dash last time, minus. But what if I did a 7 space quarter? What do you think is going to happen? Magic, 7 1/4. So similarly, if you can use the apostrophe, quotation symbol, to put in those units there as well. So very flexible. Try it out, see what works well for you, so that your habits, what you're familiar with, you can usually apply right into SolidWorks. All right, so we took a little bit of units, made them custom, put it into feet and inches, went to fractions. There's one last thing here I want to do here, because I told it to go to the denominator of 4, so everything's going to be 1/4. But what if I have something funky like I don't know, 7.33? It actually reads out 7.33. So depending on manufacturing, depending on rounding, what you want to do here, if we go back into document properties, custom units, under this more area, we can round to the nearest fraction. So this is kind of cool. There is this checkbox as well, depending on how you want to read out that feet inches. If you want that dash or not, you can turn that on or off. So if I turn around to nearest fractions, you can see there, it just rounded it off to 7 1/4. But for me, I like to be a little bit more precise. That's definitely my habit. So I'll turn that round off. We'll go back to 7 1/4. Cool. All right, what was our thickness? What was our thickness? 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, even though when I buy it, it says it's 1 inch. Am I getting ripped off from the store? I'm paying for that machining, right? 3/4. There is the board I'm going to buy. So what I want to do now, why did I do this? Why did I model just a board? Well, again, this is going to be representative of what I'm actually going to make, because I'm generating a stencil next. So we're going to get into some sketching now, and talk about, sketch picture. We're going to see how well auto trace is going to work for us. We're going to see how well auto trace is going to work for us. And then what else? Yeah, there's going to be some sketch patterning we're going to get into. I know if many of you have experienced a couple cases, especially when you get into like a complex sketch. I know Too Tall Toby has an excellent song about making sure your sketches turn black. That means that they're fully defined, but if they're blue, they're underdefined. And when you drag and drop a blue entity, or just drag on a blue entity in your sketch, and you have a whole bunch of blue entities, some crazy things can happen. So we want to lock things down here, especially when we're doing something more artistic, like the stencil of the Space Needle. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. So a sketch picture here. I know I've seen a lot of streams coming out the last few weeks, talking about creating a sketch picture. So let's take a look at what I can do here. Couple of quick shortcuts. I've had be mindful of just the difference in the buttons here. If I click on a face, I can actually edit the sketch, driving the creation of that face, or create a new sketch. So there we go, my new sketch. And I want to do a sketch picture. So what I do, I hit W on the keyboard. That is my keyboard shortcut to do the command search. Great tool. If I hit that little I button, it actually moves my mouse automatically. No hands. It's bringing my mouse down to that feature to do the sketch picture. All right, so let's go ahead and launch that. Where am I grabbing this from? Well, I do have a JPEG image. What kind of image formats are available? There you go. You can see them in the drop list there. So I'll open this up. And one of the awesome tips, they introduced this a number of versions in SOLIDWORKS ago, is the scale tool. But for me, and that's what this blue bar and this dot and this arrow is. For me though, I'm not going to use it. I want to start to outline how well this is going to fit. And to kind of visualize, am I too far over to the left or to the right? I will apply transparency. We'll do full image transparency. And now I can get a better idea of how this is going to fit in. So what I want to do here, similar to the one that you've seen made, is position this so the point right at the top is right on the edge. I'm not worried about the bottom too much. If I have some white space over there, that's fine. I'm going to be able to create my own sketches here. And maybe that edge right there is hanging off a little bit. I think that'll be okay. Now, I'm missing a lot of real estate. Now, if you notice mine, I've got a lot of white area up at the top. So like what I have here is very similar. But depending on the image that you're bringing in, maybe you want to take up more of that real estate. So we can turn off lock aspect ratio. And now I can just come in and stretch this out up and down as I want. And now from here, I think we can get to sketching. Auto trace. Auto trace. Has anyone tried auto trace? Where is it? To edit that sketch picture and get into auto trace, we have to be editing the sketch picture. So you can double click on that sketch picture. I don't see any auto trace. Hold on. Let's click OK here. Let's go to our add-ins because auto trace is an add-in. So if we come down here under SOLIDWORKS add-ins, there is my auto trace. Turn that on. Click OK. Double click on the sketch picture. Do you see what's different? Do you see what's different? It's these little arrows right at the top right corner of this property manager. So I'll hit next. Now, I ran into this because when I hit next, it applies another layer of transparency. And I totally cannot see my Space Needle anymore. Let me go back. Change the transparency to none. Now hit next. Now I'm not getting that double transparency and I can see this. So it's interesting here. We've got a bunch of different adjustments. We're going to see what these are all about here in a little bit. We could turn, source geometry, trace geometry, but what these selection tools are for is like, okay, based on the image that you brought in, and it's best to bring in a high contrast image. So like photographs, not really best here. So like other logos, decals, where you have high contrast in these images, this works great for auto trace. Higher resolution, the better, and we'll see why in just a moment. So when I click on the black color here, the Space Needle, and I hit begin trace, hey, is my job done? Can we stop the stream now? No, let's take a closer look at some of this because yeah, it could do a little bit better there. And of course, as you zoom in, you can see all the little pixels there on that image I brought in. So the image I brought in, the resolution is not great, and therefore sketch picture is struggling a little bit. I mean, we can try to change the color tolerance. We can play around with the image contrast. You can see how the sketch shape is, the sketch picture, excuse me, is adapting. If I make it really dark, it's, some areas are okay, other areas are not following it very well because again, the quality of the image that I brought in, isn't that great. So let's do some manual techniques and show you what we can do. So let's just cancel that. Oh, I want my transparency back on. Full image. Now to begin, this is going to be pretty basic. We're going to quickly run into a couple situations here that are going to make it a little bit more difficult. So as I initially come in here, I can just start tracing with the line tool. Once I get to a point here though, right here, I can transition to an arc. One of the coolest ways to transition into an arc is to bring your mouse back to the point and then come back out. And as if I come back in and then go down, right, the tangency is going back from the line that I had. If I go to the other quadrant, now it's coming perpendicular. But I don't have that direction I'm after. If I go back to the line tool, I can do so by hitting A on the keyboard. But I really want an arc there. So what I'm going to do instead, I'll use my S key, bring my shortcut toolbar, and bring in that 3-point arc. So here's where I can create it on that, and at that point, come down here to about there, and the third point is changing my radius, so I can line it up about so. Pretty straightforward. Here we have a larger arc, so again, I can just continue to click, click, click for my 3-point arc. Let me go back to my line tool, draw out these other ones. Now, here's the other situation that we run into, and this happens especially when you get into much more complicated sketches. Not necessarily complicated, just sketches with a lot of sketch entities, is the inferencing starts to get in the way. Now, while inferencing is very powerful, I mean, just notice, what is it trying to do? I haven't even clicked to place this next line yet. We have all these yellow lines all over the place. We have a little yellow symbol, and one of my other sketch entities is turned orange. What is going on? So, two of the yellow lines, the one that's collinear with the previous line I made, is currently light blue, and the one perpendicular to it, that's again giving me those quadrants, bringing down those different directions, so I can make it collinear or perpendicular to the previous line. But then I have this angled yellow line, hard angle going down there. This is where we're inferencing the orange sketch line. And if we take a look what's happening at my mouse cursor, we have a parallel symbol. So if I click right now, it's going to create that parallel relationship to that previous line. But I don't want that. So while you're sketching, here's the tip. Hold Control on your keyboard, and the inferencing is temporarily disabled. Right, so you don't have to click, re-click, delete relations, just hold Control. Inferencing, you can't even make it coincident to a point. All that inferencing to create relations on the fly is temporarily disabled. That's what I want to do in this case. So I'll click once more, and we'll move on to the next segment. Now, for this next segment here, there's a couple ways I could go about doing this. Do I come over and follow this shape until I run into this this branch? Or do I go all the way over? Do I go all the way over? I think what I want to do is use a spline to create this, and I'm going to make it go all the way over to the center of the black area. Now I know here's the other debate that's been going on is what kind of spline person are you? Are you a regular spline or are you a style spline? I've got some style. Let's do some style spline. So I'll click once there, and we are drawing this control points of the spline. I can just hit escape to terminate that. And then I just have nice smooth spline and a point that I can just drag and drop and line this up as it makes sense. That's cool. All right, so I haven't gotten to, we're about to get to a point where we need to drag and drop on our sketches, and we want to drag and drop on our sketches, but we don't want the sketch flying all over on us. So what can we do? Well, one of the easiest ways to fully define a spline like this is grab those points and fix them. Oh, look at that, turn black. So I cannot drag and drop. The item is fixed. So this is really going to help us out. Again, when you're getting into complex sketching like this, you can temporarily fix these items. If you want to delete them, you can come up here to Display Delete Relations. And there's a variety of relations that you can filter for. But like in this case, we can select all those fixed ones and delete them at one go if you want. So Display Delete Relations is a powerful tool to help manage all those relations in your sketches. All right, so let's make this fixed. And let's keep going here. So grab a line, come down here. Now this first one, and we can use that arc transition I mentioned earlier. Come out, come back in, and we'll come back here to the top. So notice, I don't know, I did that a little bit quick, but some inferencing happened. But there's one other relationship down here at the bottom that I can add between this arc and this line. I want it to be very smooth, so we can add that tangency just by clicking on the point now. And that outline looks pretty good. This next one is going to be a little bit more challenging. So let's try this one here. Let's come down. Now if I do an arc, it's not going to match up. It's not going to match up very well. So we can try a different sketch entity. Before I do that, let me grab that line again. Come down here to where about that ends. And let's do another style splines, shall we? And there's things. Andy Barnes did a great presentation on surfacing. I encourage you to check that out. He gets into torsion continuity. I'm just worried about tangency here, but I highly encourage you to take a look at Andy's cast. And that was episode 3. Did a snowboard wax iron. Highly encourage you to take a look at that. Get into torsion continuity and what's all that's about. All right, so but again with the style spline, nice easy way to get a smooth curve, fit that in nice. Okay. Last part up here, and now we're kind of getting onto the home stretch. So we'll start there. And come on over. So a series of straight lines there. That one was pretty easy. All right. Yeah, control when sketching. Love it. All right, the most complicated part here coming up is the series of these rectangles. We have a triangle at the top. So let's knock these out real quick. And again, sketch is blue. We can drag and drop on it. That looks all right. And again, to avoid inferencing, it's wanting to snap to a vertical point there. I don't want it. I'll hold control. I want it to be horizontal, so I'll let it inference there. And I want it, collinear with the line above, so I'll take advantage of the inferencing that's happening there. All right, so we're getting closer. All right, so down here at the bottom, there's a couple other odd things going on. We can use the parallelogram. Let's check this one out. Nice little parallelogram, makes quick work of that. We've got another triangle here at the top. Quick work of that. Now, do I have for all these series, all these other rectangles here, are they or we would do it as a parallelogram. So let's draw one, but do I have to draw each of them? I don't. And this is where we've got a big time saver for you. when we put that out, let's go back normal 2 there, is when we create a sketch entity like this, and it's common, it's reused over and over again, especially in this application, it's where we're sticking to the sketches. If we were talking about features later on, of course, we would talk about feature patterning, but in this case, we're going to do a linear sketch pattern. So that's up here. What entities are we going to do? Well, I want to grab all 4. What's the easiest way to grab all 4? Well, with shaded contours, and that's where we have this up here. In the sketch shaded contours, you can turn this on, and I can just click that contour. Boom, I got all 4 available for me. Anyone in the comments, let me know when shaded contours came out. And let's see if we can get a consensus on when we first had shaded contours. But if you're using a version of SOLIDWORKS before we had shaded contours, how could you do it? You could right-click on the sketch line and choose Select Chain. After you've selected your components, now get into our linear sketch pattern. All those entities will be selected. So how far out is this distance going to go? Oh, I don't know. We're just eyeballing it here. But as I start bringing this out, like if I go to an inch, this direction is not the direction I want to go. Now I could come in here and grab a different edge or a different path that I want to, or really a different direction for this pattern to go. So if I click on this edge, it wants to go straight up and down. Makes sense. Let's clear that out. I really want it to follow this other sketch line, but if I click it, it's just adding that sketch line to the selection. So I would need a separate sketch in order to define that direction, but really I don't need to. So let's do that one more time. If I take, let's do that linear sketch pattern, we'll grab our entities there, bump this out to a couple inches, and at this point, without changing the selection, it still says x-axis, I can actually drag and drop on the handles of the direction and go through a couple iterations there in the about the right place. Now, but I have 4 of them, so sure enough, let's add 4, and it respects the spacing of that first one. So right about there, I mean, we pretty much have it. So we'll click OK. All right, so we're about halfway through. No, did you think you could spend so much time on sketching? Absolutely, create some awesome sketches here inside SOLIDWORKS. If I ever wanted to make a change to that sketch, because if you take a look at mine, if you take a look at the board that I made, mine's a little bit different. I did not follow the exact rules of that. I kind of broke it up here. So I have one long one, and then I've got that point. I've got a couple smaller rectangles at the bottom. Oh, awesome, guys. 2017, 2018. What do you guys think? All right. If I wanted to make a change to that sketch pattern, there are a couple dimensions that pop up here. There's this 4, and I could change that to a 3 if I wanted to come down here, so it removes the one at the top. This is very powerful, especially if you're getting into equations or linking dimensions. But what if there was an additional sketch entity I wanted to add? I can right-click on any of those pattern sketch entities and choose Edit Linear Pattern. And that brings us right back to that property manager. So I have full control. I can go in, I can add more entities if I need to get that sketch exactly how I want it. All right, so I think we have our sketch made. No. One last thing here at the top, because if I edit this out, I have some sketch entities that I want to get rid of. I want to trim them out. So This makes easy work of the trim entities tool. Power trim is my go-to trim tool, so we can easily trim these in. Notice that some of the fixed relations go away just because we got rid of some of those entities. That's okay for me. Taking another quick look at this, I think I'm golden. So let's edit our sketch. We can even hide our sketch, but we want to use this sketch now because next thing we want to do is I could start creating outputs for this to print it out, but we want to visualize this a little bit better. I want to show it to my wife to make sure she thinks it looks good and we're ready to move forward. So let's grab that sketch. We'll go to curves and choose. Thank you. What, you don't like seeing me a whole bunch? All right. I don't know if I was showing this or not. Let me come back right here for a moment. If you wanted to edit a sketch pattern, right click on any of those pattern sketch entities and choose Edit Linear Pattern. And get right back in there. Okay. And then what I did up here is we used Power Trim to trim some of these guys out. But obviously I don't want to do that one. All right. Exit sketch. Where'd my sketch go? Well, what I want to do here to start visualizing this is do a split line. So we can grab that split line, we can project it onto our board, click OK, and there we go. There's our nice little 3D geometry of our board to be made. But how am I going to visualize this? If I showed this to anybody else, it's like, Michael, what is this? It just looks like a gray bar with some lines on it. Yeah, I know. Okay, so let's add some realism to it. Jump over here to appearances. Digging into appearances, we'll come down to organic, get to wood. What type of wood? Well, I said it was pine. Is there pine in here? Sure enough, there is. Pick and choose your favorite pine here. So the actual piece of wood that I got is really nice. I mean, it didn't have any burrs on it. Really nice, clean. Let's try applying this varnish pine, and we'll apply it to the part. Now take a look at what happens here. You can change the visibility here, lighten this up a little bit. So I just did that by changing our scene. I've been using the default here, but I just toggled over to plain white. Adds a little bit more lightness to your model. And the direction of the grain is not the direction I want. It's not as realistic as it should be, as I want it to be. So I can come over here to the display manager, make sure that we have view appearances selected, and come down to that varnish pine, and we will edit the appearance. So what this is called mapping. How is it projecting that texture onto that face? So we can go to mapping here, and I just want to rotate it. But if we take a look at the mapping controls, there isn't a clear, easy button to change it. There's mapping size here. But what I need to do, instead of just mapping it to the whole box, it's just applying it to the box and applying it to the model, we can go to surface mapping. And this is probably the quickest way to do it. Make that toggle, and now I have rotation. So I can change that to 90 degrees, hit tab, and that'll instantly update my view. So the grain direction is looking pretty good there. And for me, I did green on mine. You could do a different color on yours, of course, and grab any other picture you want and bring it in. I will apply an appearance to the face. So notice with selecting that face, come here to the appearance drop list, choose face. Now I can come in and just give it a simple color there. All right, it's looking pretty cool. What do we want to do? What do we want to do next? Yeah, works on polygons well. Chuck, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what we did in the sketching, Demi, just to recap here, we tried out auto trace because of the low resolution on that image. Didn't work out so well. So we took a manual technique here to trace out that image. We learned a little bit about automatic transitioning to an arc. but of course in many of my cases, that arc was not tangent or perpendicular to the previous line, so just added in some 3-point arcs. We talked about some style splines. We did some sketch patterning. All right, so I think that's looking okay. So we can show this around. We can get some approval. I think we're ready to do this. Get off to the next section here and start to create our manufacturing information. So this is really going to be a 1-to-1 scale print, so I can create a tensile or that I can cut out and tape onto the board and then spray paint it or paint it by hand. So to do this, let's go ahead and save this. I'll just put it right in there. Call it new growth chart. Awesome. Let's make a drawing of it. Make drawing from part from the file menu. Now I don't care about the sheet format, and really I don't want a standard sheet size. So okay, here's the next math challenge for you guys. If we have a 6-foot high board, how many 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper do I need? Oh, there go my units again. So we're in the default metric here. So while you're thinking about that, let's come in here. We'll change this to inch pound seconds. We'll come into back to the properties of the sheet. All right, so the default sheet that I have here is 8.5 by 11, but really for the board, I mean, I could just put in the dimensions of the board because kind of the math challenge I just gave you, we don't really need to do that. We can actually just put in the height here, 72 by 11. I mean, something that's close is really kind of what we're after. So if it is 72 inches, I mean, let's see how this will work. Let's apply that, and let's bring in our growth chart, but the scale we want to be 1-to-1. So when I drop that in like so, we have that full board in there, and it's filling out that sheet pretty nicely. I mean, especially for this example, the critical areas here are, especially anything below this line for me, and especially to the point, I think we're good there. So the drawing here, the tips that we really talked about are getting into the properties of the sheets and being able to change that custom sheet size, because this is what's the critical step for especially outputting to either large format printer. Obviously, there's other standard sheet sizes that you can go in and modify and create your own. In this case, I don't need a drawing board or don't want anything else. I just want that custom sheet size. Because now I'm to output this, we'll do a file, save as, and we're going to change this to a PDF, and we'll view it when we're done. So we'll hit save. And there it is. So I'm using Adobe Acrobat Pro. I tried this out with Adobe Reader, and in previous versions, like years ago, because I made this 5 years ago, the print properties were different. But I think you should be able to do the same thing next, regardless if you have Adobe Acrobat Pro or if you have Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader. But what we have here is a very large sheet of paper. How are we going to print this out? File print, of course. So by default, the page and sizing handling is set to size, and it's automatically shrinking oversized pages. So here's my 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Got a problem. Here's the option to pick. Pick poster. Now here's where we can be a little bit more careful on the output that we're creating here. So what's happened is it's actually taking up a lot more sheets of paper than I care to use. So let's make a quick change here, right? Because I've got 2 horizontal on each case. And yeah, don't want that. This tile scale is at 100%. I mean, that would work for us. Let me hit cancel here. We'll close that. Let's make a change back here to the properties, not of the view, of the drawing, and change our width down to 10. Publish out our PDF again. Overwrite the previous. Should open up still. File, print. In a similar case. So, was it just that property that I needed to change? Let's do it one more time. Let's take a look. I want a little bit bigger here. All right, so now we've got something like that. File, save as. There we go. So now I have my poster style at, it's trying to print 11 by 93.5 inches. But what this is going to do when I print this out, it actually gives me a 1-to-1 scale that we can start, cutting out and tracing. So like what I had here on the board, I have, all these shapes, all these lines I can start cutting out, taping onto the board, and then get to painting. So this is a real nice way to be able to take that 1-to-1. I want to see some comments here on what you think you can use this for. Obviously, if you want to make your own growth chart, maybe for yourself or for a family or friend, you can really use this for laying out almost anything. So in many cases, I've seen a lot of weldment or structural members, especially for something home projects kind of deal, where you have the printer, the pages aren't big enough as the work area that you're going to use and lay out. You can use this poster printing option and that 1-to-1 scale from SOLIDWORKS to publish that out. Okay. So we've got about 10 minutes here before we wrap up. There was one other thing here I wanted to show you. Hopefully you've picked up some good tips here on how to create a large format print. That 1-to-1 aspect ratio or 1-to-1 size ratio for printing this out. But here's the last thing I want to do here. If you have other geometry coming back in, or you have other shapes, we talked about the bridges. If you missed the pre-show, spent about 10 minutes before we started on the hour today talking about using apps for kids at homes, apps for kids at home, especially if you've got young ones or have the friends or other relatives who have young ones. It's a great application for the growth chart. Apps for kids enables them to get into some of this awesome technology and get familiar with 3D CAD. But what if they made something? Can you make a stencil of it and have a little bit more control over that with SOLIDWORKS? Because one thing that we can do here in Apps for Kids, we can come out and print it. And there's a couple things that you built into Apps for Kids that you can do when you print. There's just taking a look at a 2D print, right? And I can print this out on a sheet of paper. I can cut it out, and I have my stencil. There's this other cool thing called a box print. It's like our front, top, right, left, bottom, back views inside SOLIDWORKS. Yeah, but it also gives you the outlines here to kind of cut out and form that together. But here's the trick one that I want to do here, and we've got two bridges here, two basic bridges put together. What I'm going to do here is go to 3D print. Now, I don't have a 3D printer at home. I do have a 2D printer. That's how I made this other one. But what I'm going to do here is just download the STL. We're going to download this STL file. So that's going on its way into my downloads folder. We're going to come back here to this part that we made. I want to bring in those bridges there, maybe put them towards the bottom a little bit, just to have a little bit more, a little bit more personality to it. Something that one of my kids may have made. I'm going to make an assembly of our board. Insert component, just hit the green checkbox there, puts it at the default coordinate system, and it's fixed. We'll save this as our new growth assembly. I want to open up that STL. So from those downloads, I can open up that STL, and it comes in with Z up. That's kind of interesting. So one thing to take a look there is I can hit the space bar, and this is new. We can change this to Z up views, and just like that, change the display, changes my scene floor so that now Z is up. It's a cool trick, especially if you're getting geometry from other CAD systems, like in this case. But with this STL model, there's a couple things. Well, let's save it first. I want to be able to take the outline of this geometry and put it in. So there's one step I need to do with this graphics body, or the graphics bodies. So I'll come in, either Control Select or Shift Select all of these. Right click on them and choose Convert to Mesh Body. Convert to Mesh Body. So this is the step that's actually going to give me some CAD geometry that's going to give me outlines that I can use inside the drawing. So I'll just save that. I'll do a Control Tab to our assembly. I can insert the components, and we can do just that one. And bring it in. If I go to the front view here, yeah, there we go. Drop it right in there. So one thing that's interesting here with these, we can kind of hold to rotate the model in space. We can hold our right mouse button. Let's say I want something, undo, held Control, I was moving that. Maybe I want this starting to kind of come out, or maybe kind of go across the side there, give us some extra shape of something that my kids made. So with that, when we come over here to the drawing, we need to make a new drawing. So I'll do add a new sheet there, model view, choose the assembly. Again, scale 1:1. And that's a nice slick way that you can take something that came from another system, something that was drawn up, bring it into SolidWorks and generate those outlines right inside SolidWorks. Now I have my updated template. I can go through the same process of saving this out to PDF and using that poster print inside PDF to do so. Now, in the last couple minutes here, I just have one other thing I want to show you. One of the first things I see a lot of young minds do once they get into Shape It is they just try to check out all these different shapes. They'll come to shapes, and what I like to say is they just start, you'll find I do the same thing. You just come in, you click on different shapes, and very quickly you've designed your own wizard staff. So this would be a nice, cool, fun little way to be able to go through those same steps of saving that out, printing it, saving it to the STL format, bringing it into SolidWorks to create your new custom growth chart. Nice, easy way to create some organic shapes, bring it into SolidWorks, reuse that geometry, and use that poster printing to get that 1-to-1 ratio. Again, great applications not only for very artistic applications like I have here, but also very much mechanical assembly to create a layout of your components that you're going to weld together, that you're going to fasten together, and give you those instructions nice and easy. All right. So hopefully there were a number of lessons in there. Hopefully you learned something cool. Give me a thumbs up if you did. If you want to see more apps for kids, put that in the chat. If you liked what you saw there, there's a lot more online. There's a lot of fun that you and your kids can do. So coming up this Friday, episode 8. Jordan, I saw you in the chat earlier. It's garage time with you. You've got your dimensions on. I know it. So looking forward to that presentation. Stay tuned there. If you haven't already, go back and watch the previous episodes from Toby, Brian, Andy. And then, yeah, I'm kind of wrapping up the series of the 4 MSs. Mike Sobocek, good luck today, buddy. Mike Sandy, Mark Schneider, and then me. So stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.